Walter. Hello, Walter.
Hello. All right, so we're going to get started. You're all here at the monthly meeting of Community Board 5. My name is Walter Sanchez. I'm the first vice chair. I'll be presiding the meeting tonight in Vincent's absence. And first, we're going to start with the pledge. So we'll look at Donald Passantino's got a flag behind him there. I see that, Donald. Nice and big flag. All right, so let's do the pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
The flag
to the flag
of
of
the
the United States of America and to the
republic
for
which
which it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we're going to start. We have two public hearings tonight. So the public hearing, the first one is BSA application 95559BZ. It's for 5922 Fresh Pond Road in Maspeth, an application to the City of New York Board of Standards and Appeals by Walter T. Gorman on behalf of Alliance Energy LLC, owner of a record, to amend a previously issued variance to permit the erection of two new metal canopies over an existing self-service pump islands for the gasoline service station at 5912 Fresh Pond Road at the northwest corner of 59th Road in Maspeth. And it's in a R4-3 zoning district. Do we have the applicants here?
Yes, that would be myself, Daniel Ash.
Great. Okay, Daniel, welcome. Go for it.
Daniel, you should be able to share a screen if you need to.
It says it's disabled.
It should be open. I asked our host to make it open, and I see that I can share a screen, but I am a co.
Now it's open. I see it.
You should be able to do it now. Yeah.
This service station is right across the street from what we old timers called New Park. It's called Reef Park on Fresh Pond Road, correct?
I don't know the names of the park, but it's on Fresh Pond and the corner of 61st and 59th Road.
Okay.
So my name is Daniel Ash. I work for Walter Gorman Engineering. We are the applicants working with Alliance Global Energy that owns the site. This is an existing gas station. It's had a BSA approval because it's in a residential district. It's been operating as a gas station since the 50s. Right now it has two pumps, neither of which is enclosed by a canopy. So the goal of this application before you now is to put up canopies so that people will be able to fuel their cars in any weather and will help the business for the site. The only other major thing that we're looking to do is enclose the dumpsters that are on the corner of the site right now, so that it'll be a little better look to have them enclosed in a gated masonry enclosure. This is the existing conditions plan right now. The tanks are over there, and right now there's two dispensers. We are not looking to change the routes in and out of the site, so the curb cuts will still be the same. We're just looking to put up two canopies that are basically the size of the concrete mat that's below them right now, 25 by 25, and one over each canopy. And then over here in the corner, you'll see where we're putting the enclosure for the trash, all the parking spaces. We're also adding a handicap parking space over on this side that probably should be there, but is not right now. When we get approval from the board, it should probably take 3 months or so to perform this work. The fueling would, unless they decide to do one at a time, which I doubt, but probably the fueling will be shut down during that time so that they could put this canopy in, or these two canopies in, I should say.
Daniel, currently you have overnight parking, correct? In those 4 or 5 parking spots?
No, there was a time that the dealer was putting, but those are cars awaiting service right now.
Okay. And is there a convenience store inside?
There's a small sales area inside.
You
See
thinking
here that was not intended to be increased as part of this project.
Okay.
Only about 150 square feet or so of sales area.
And the sign, you have a sign on the property that there's a gas station. Is it lit at night?
The sign is lit at night, yes.
Okay.
That's over here on the corner of Fresh Pond and 59th.
So you're adding handicap parking. Are you taking away anything there?
No, right now it's just not painted properly. They have cars parked there, but we want to put in the handicap symbol and block off space next to it so that cars are not going to park right on top of each other and make it difficult for.
Are you adding any service pumps or adding any tanks?
We are not. There are 5 tanks right now that is staying the same, and there's 2 dispensers that is also staying the same.
Are you planning to put any new landscaping in? Bushes, trees, anything?
It was
like that?
not part, they already have a landscape area over here
Okay,
and over here. We were not intending to put any more.
okay. Do you want to scroll down and show the other pictures of the site?
Sure. So this is some elevations. Let me
Okay.
just a little bit of the repair shop with the standard signs and mobile service over it. None of this is changing. Over here was part of the standard shut-off valves and signage for the gasoline tanks. At the side of the building was just the entrance to the restroom, and again, part of the standard lights that go on if the tanks get overfilled. This is the sign drawing that shows the existing signage throughout the site. The ID sign that I mentioned that is staying, that is illuminated. The price sign is also illuminated, but both of those are as far off the residential lot line as can be.
Mhm.
They're not causing any problems. There is going to be signage on the canopy as well.
Okay.
We were limited in how much signage we could have, so it's really just going to be 2 signs on that canopy and 1 sign on this canopy, in order to stay within the guidelines of the zoning resolution.
Okay, and it's going to be a 10.
Sign.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Again, go ahead.
It's going to be a 10-year variance.
10 years is the typical term that the board will approve for, yes.
Okay. Any questions from members of the board?
I have one, Paul Kersner, right behind the property, on the, yeah, right over here where it says R4-1 zoning district. Is that a residential building right there that's abutting this
That
property?
is, yes, this is a 2-story dwelling over here.
Okay,
And then also, I think, Walter, when you stated the original zoning, I don't think you said R4-1. I think you said something,
I'm sorry, R4-1.
you said
R.
R3 something, but it's
Yes.
R4-1.
4-1.
Okay. All right. If there are no other questions, David, what we're going to do is turn this over to the Land Use Committee. I happen to be the chair of that committee. We're going to meet the first week of February.
Walter, excuse me, I had my hand up.
Sorry, go.
Yes, this is Edward Letow. I just want to know, do you plan on putting electric charging stations in for any of the vehicles? Any electric stations, maybe 1, 2, 3, any that in this stage or maybe in the future?
I can't rule out the future, but for now, we are looking to sell only gasoline, not to make electric.
All right. So, David, you're going to communicate with Gary as to when our Land Use Committee meets, and I don't think it's too arduous unless there are any complaints from neighbors. Gary, have you had anything yet?
None that I know of.
Okay. So we're going to meet and make a recommendation the first week of February, and we'll be voting on this at our February board meeting.
Okay.
Which is the second Wednesday, which will be February 8th. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Our next public hearing is an application 202289A and 202290A for 6110 and 6112 Menahan Street in Ridgewood in the matter of an application to the Board of Standards and Appeal by Rothkrug Inspector on behalf of Sheng Li Lu, the owner of record pursuant to General City Law, Section 35, to permit the development of 2 semi-detached 3-family buildings, each located within the portion of a mapped but unbuilt street, 61st Street, at 6110 and 6112 Menahan Street, Block 3523, Lot 37 and 38, on the south side of Menahan Street between Fresh Pond Road and 60th Place in Ridgewood. Who's here? Simon?
Todd Dale is here.
Hi.
And we need to
Hi.
get
Good
Todd
evening.
screen sharing as well.
Should be
Okay,
good to go.
You got it.
Okay, so let me try and do that. Let me see. Hang on a second. Let me share. Does that, I think that's working, right? The land use map?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. And I can switch to some other photos or plans as needed. So you gave a great summary. This is 2 applications, joint applications to pursuant to General City Law 35 to permit construction of 2 new 3-story, 3-family homes that would be located in the bed of a mapped but unbuilt street, portion of 61st Street. You can see right here on the map, it's these 2 green areas are the 2 new proposed tax lots. It's currently a single tax lot, but I'll get into that a little bit here. And this is 61st Street, which runs right here, and then actually continues to the west over here. So the site is located on the south side of Menahan Street. As I said, it's currently tax lot 37. It's proposed to be apportioned into 2 new lots, new lot 37, which would have 20.25 feet frontage on Menahan, and new lot 38, which would have 25.25 feet frontage on the south side of Menahan. It's located in R5B zoning district. Currently, and I think I'm going to go, might be easier here to see photographs. This photograph here is a satellite photograph. Currently, it's developed with a 2-family, 2-story home that would be demolished to facilitate the development. As I said, the proposal would break this into 2 separate tax lots. Each of the buildings would be located on one of the tax lots. It would be treated as 1 zoning lot, so the total square footage for the entire proposal would be approximately 6,016 square feet, which would be a FAR, a floor area ratio of 1.35, which is permitted in the district. This proposal conforms and complies to every requirement of the New York City zoning resolution, both the use and the bulk. The relief that's sought is pursuant to a state law, which is the General City Law, which says that if a city or a town has a official street map, an official city map, that if a party is seeking to build within the bed of a privately owned portion of a map street, that you're required to get the approval from the zoning board, which in this case is the Board of Standard Appeals. As noted, it is 61st Street. Let me go back here. I'm going to just show you the plan just so you can see what the site plan will look like. This is the site plan that gives you an idea, an overhead. For applications of this type to the BSA, we're only required to provide a site plan, but these would be the 2 buildings. And then this is one border of the map street, and this is a border of the map street. So you can see that this building would be fully within the bed of map 61st, and this one would be in there for approximately, I think it's about 1 foot or 1.5 feet located within the bed of the street. But as I said, 61st Street's map street that runs for 3 blocks between Metropolitan Avenue and Grove Street. It is currently improved only here. I'm going to go back here to give the land use. This gives it a little easier. The only areas for 61st is
signing in.
it's currently improved here to a dead end to the south of the site, and improved here to the north where it jogs over to the west.
Maybe that's why. But you're
Steve,
in.
you're on mute. Put Steve on mute, please.
Sorry. The city has not taken any action to acquire the privately owned portion of this street for at least 10 years, which is a requirement for filing an appeal pursuant to General City Law 35. And there's also no realistic prospect that the city would seek to acquire this. Currently, it is developed not only with the homes that are proposed, but there is an existing home here. So any acquisition by the city would require condemnation of both the existing two-family home that we are proposing to demolish, but also this existing new home that was recently built, I think this 3-story multiple dwelling here. This application will be referred to city agencies, both DEP, also the fire department, but DOT. So DOT will have a chance to weigh in to see if this is part of the city's capital plan for improvement. Based on available public records, it is not part of the capital plan. And as we said, it's not anticipated that it would be, because there would be minimal benefit to opening this street. It's a very similar construction that's proposed, or development pattern is proposed, to Bunnicky Court, which is right here, which also dead ends in a similar fashion to 61st Street. Should this application not be granted by the Board of Standard Appeals for whatever reason, if it's part of the capital plan, then the city would actually then be compelled to acquire the private property from the private property owner in order to acquire it for development. I'm happy to answer any of the questions about this application. So can share any other materials that anybody else needs to see.
If the city grants this, it's not a 10-year, it's forever. You're building
It's forever.
Correct.
Correct. Yes. This would be similar to a bulk variance. When the Board of Standard Appeals grants things for terms, it's either a statutory term like certain special permits, or the city, the Board of Standard Appeals has a habit similar to the last application where it's a board condition where they will put a condition generally on commercial or manufacturing uses that are in residential districts to ensure that there's a good actor. But for an application of this type, or like for a bulk variance where you're actually building a permanent structure, there's no term.
So right now the family is, the house is, you said 2 families? Okay.
Currently it's a 2-story, 2-family. Let me go back here. I'll just give you an idea. Let me go here.
What do you want to build?
It's 2 3-story, 3-family homes. Let me show you the photograph. This is the satellite photograph. You can see 2 3-story, 3 families. They'd be very similar in scale to the existing buildings here to the east. And then one would be on this tax lot and one would be on this tax lot. There is an existing curb cut that would be maintained here. And then a new curb cut would be put in here at the dead end of 61st to allow access from both Menahan and from 61st to these 2 new homes.
Okay, so there's 2 families there, and there's going to be 6 when this is done. That's what you're proposing. And
correct.
You're building within the FAR. If it were 2 lots, 1.35.
Correct. It's conforming and complying. It meets all the yard height, bulk requirements, and density requirements for the underlying zoning district. The only relief is this state law for which we are seeking the appeal.
Okay, Jasmine, question?
I had a question about this photo. It seems as if the purple outline, is that the proposed outline for the buildings?
That's the proposed tax lots. So this is currently 1 tax lot. Let me go back here. Let's go right to the tax map. How's that, to give you an idea? So right now you can see that currently right here, sorry. Where am I? Lot 37 over here. I don't know. Let's see if I can switch this up and slide over here. You can see currently it's a single tax lot here. Don't be confused by this dashed line. That's the border of the street. So this tax lot is proposed to be apportioned to 2 separate tax lots. And then each of the buildings will be located on one of the tax lots. So this particular building actually would be lot line to lot line of the tax lot. This building would have a yard right here that's approximately 5 feet, which is what is required because this is being treated as a single zoning lot.
Okay, so that was going to be my follow-up question, because I see the 2 abutting buildings have windows to the sides of them. So this right
here,
not that one, the one to the other side. Are there windows at this back side?
I'm not sure, but if there are windows, let's double check here. Nope, there are no windows. Do you see this right here?
Okay.
Where I'm pointing right there are no
the-
existing windows.
Okay, so these 2 buildings will be, the proposed buildings will be to these boundary lines. except for the left side, which will have that 5-foot walkway.
So essentially, I'm going to follow with the mouse cursor. The buildings based on this satellite photo would approximately maintain this driveway area here and go back here and then come over here and then would be a semi-detached. So it would be attached right here. So this area would be developed. This space between these buildings would be maintained. And there is an existing curb cut, and a new curb cut would actually back here with this like shed that's here that would be demolished as part of it. So there would be access from 61st and there would be access from Menahan to those two buildings.
Okay, and assuming, okay,
Going
thank
back
you.
to the site plan just to show you that this is the access here. Okay.
Okay,
And there'll
And
be
have-
parking in the rear for both houses.
Correct. There's
Good.
actually there's a 1-car garage here. And then there's 3 exterior spaces. And for the zoning lot, 4 spaces would be required and 4 are proposed.
Jasmine, you had a follow-up?
yeah, I just had one last follow-up. Has there been any safety plans filed with DOB, and have they been approved?
Very preliminary, because we wouldn't proceed to any construction plans with the Department of Buildings until this threshold approval is obtained. Once this threshold approval is obtained, then we would go through the normal Department of Buildings procedure. And if there weren't a map street, at that point is when the architect would file and engage in any safety plan filings at the Department of Buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Nick?
Sure.
Nick? You're on mute, I think.
Yeah. How long is demolition?
To be honest, I am not sure. I'm
How
not.
many demolition
I'm not
trucks are
into-
you gonna have out on the streets? I mean,
I
it's a very small street.
Well, I would say that demolition would need to meet any rules or regulations with demolition for any building that is not, part of the relief that's sought. It would just be typical of any demolition that would be required for an as-of-right building.
Okay.
Peggy?
You have a preliminary rendering of what it's going to look like?
No, at this point, the Board of Standard Appeals only requires a site plan for this type of filing. The reason is because it's a very limited scope of review that's before the board for this appeal. And they generally will only request a site plan and approve a site plan and not any rendering or elevation or section.
Ken?
Because
Yeah, I see. All right, it's 6 apartments basically, and you're having room for 4 cars. Most likely, there's going to be more than 6 cars, the way things go these days. Right? I mean, what about the other 2 cars?
the zoning regulations only require 4 parking spaces for a zoning lot of this size. So the 6 dwelling units are permitted. It's the law of the city that requires 2 spaces for a 3-family home.
Mike?
Okay, and also I want
Remember-
to know, the house next to it that it's going to abut, have they, do they know about this, and have they approved that?
That would be later on in the process. This is really
Okay.
just a threshold to get past. This is really, you're asking very valid questions, but those would be part of the normal Department of Buildings approval. The only reason we're before the BSA is for this street issue, and really in form and fashion that this type of application is designed to sort of put the city on notice that, hey, your city map says that you've got a street here. This is privately owned property. Do you really want to build a street? Now's your time to act. That's not to oversimplify, but that's in large part what this type of application is to sort of put the city on notice. Just to reassure everybody, this is not city-owned property that someone's trying to take. This is privately owned property, and it just happens to be on the map of the city. And this owner is seeking to make use of that private property and letting the city know that they're doing so. So if you've got a plan, speak now or hold your peace.
So they're building on the mapped street, which is why they come to us. But they're going as of right. So they're doing everything as if there was no street there. They're asking, they have to do this because of they're building on a mapped street. Mike Porcelli.
on the west side of your proposed building, it abuts the neighboring house, correct?
Correct. This would be a semi-detached structure, so it would abut on the west.
On the east side, you have a 5-foot gap to the neighboring house, is that right?
It's a 5-foot yard, which is what's required by the zoning resolution.
So then there's not enough room to drive a car from front to back through between the buildings.
I believe that it is because it's if I recall correctly, I think it's a shared driveway situation. I think there might be an easement. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they have the adjoining lot has 4.5 feet, and this is 5 feet.
Okay.
I don't, to be honest, the easement doesn't come up as a review of this application, but as I recall, there is an easement there because there is an existing curb cut. But I would also note that a new curb cut's proposed on 61st. So, even if that didn't exist, they would still be able to access the parking spaces from 61st.
Okay, very good.
All right, Fred?
Is it looking like this would be all cement and parking? Because you're accessing it from both sides and you have basically all access from cars from the front and the back. So you think we're looking at 2-3 family houses with all cement?
It's currently all cement, so yes, that would be maintained.
There'd be no
There
okay.
would be some landscaping in the front yard, like there is currently grass in the front yard. Let me see if I can bring up the photo again and take a look just to show you that what would be here. Hang on just 1 second. I stopped my sharing prematurely.
And your demapping would have to be approved by the fire department.
And just to clarify, this wouldn't be a demapping. Just as a lawyer, I need to say that's something different. So it would still be there as a map street. There just would be the approval to be there. But
Yes,
just so you can see right now, this is all cement in the back currently, but there is a little bit of landscaping right here, which would be maintained as far as the proposed building. So a little bit of grass, similar to there's like a little, actually, I think the buildings adjacent don't even have that. Well, there might be a few bushes here.
Yeah.
But it would be compliant with any requirements for yards in the front, but it is all cement in the back and that's proposed to be maintained.
So is it that we don't demap anymore because there are buildings currently there? Now, if there were no buildings there at all, you'd have to demap. But is it because there's no building, because there's buildings there? I mean, ordinarily we would demap. You would, and then you would be able to do whatever you want. But what you're doing is as of right, once you get permission to, once you get to doing it, but you don't have to demap.
No, so that's it. You bring up an interesting thing, and I'll give you a brief description and then expand as much as your community board wants me to. But there would essentially be two options if you have private property where there's a map street. One is a demapping action, as you note. The second is that there's a state provision that says, under the general city law, they allow a zoning board to grant an approval on a specific basis for a specific lot. Not to be overly simple, but a general city law application is a quicker, simpler, more efficient process that's based for a single property owner, and it doesn't necessarily affect a whole street. Demappings often require demapping of larger parcels. Demappings also require going to the city planning. They are like a 2 to 3 year process, and it actually ends up being, it's considered, where is this an action within the law? A demapping action is often considered a change of legislation because you're changing the actual city map, so you need to get city council approval. So the difference is a 6-month process that's targeted for a particular user versus a demapping, which is a up to 3 year process that involves city planning, city council approval. The other thing I will just tell you is that, for over 60 years, no demapping actions were filed by a private entity in the city. I think there's one that was just recently filed, but generally any demapping action that's occurred over the last 60 plus years has been city originated. So there's my quick little description.
Yeah, well, the one at the end of 59th Street in Glendale by Cypress Avenue, that was a demapping, and that was in the 90s, which came to this board. But otherwise, so if the house would have burned, and then when next would have burned down, the city don't have to give $1 and could use it, but because there's already buildings there, they're able to say, look, we leave the existing buildings or take them down and do this. That, because under section 35, if they're gone, the city doesn't have to give fair market value, they can take them.
Not quite. I mean, this is privately owned property, and it would just stay there with the map there. The fact that there's an existing building there actually doesn't affect this approval one way or another and has no legal effect. What's happening is that they're trying, if they were either enlarging the existing building or developing something new, or if it burnt down and they built any development beyond what's already there. The building that's there predates the current zoning resolution and is grandfathered in, so it didn't need to get the general city law approval. But this is the first action development after the general city law approval where the bulk is being changed. The city doesn't have any $1 condemnation clause because they have no title or no ownership to this land. It just happens to be that the city has an official city map that's a theoretical map, and that theoretical map is imposed over the geography. And there are huge sections or plenty of areas in the city where there is privately owned property that happens to be within the bed of one of these mapped but unbuilt streets. And this application is really just designed, to, as I said, to put the city on notice to say, city, you have your official map. It's a theoretical map. Here's a private property owner. They wish to make use of their private property. Would you like to actually, build the street that you're talking about? And it puts them on notice. And, the one thing to tell you about here is that, even if this were granted, in theory, 15 years from now, if the city wanted to build a street, they could exercise eminent domain and condemn the building. But they could do that to any building in the city, not just this one. Like if they decided to put, a brand new street through the middle of this block, the city could show good reason as to why they needed to exercise eminent domain, they could put that there. This is just a preliminary step because there is this official city map that shows it as a street.
Okay, we're
Right,
gonna
thanks
move
a lot.
on.
Thanks a lot.
Michael Porcelli.
Thanks a
Mike.
lot. Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, Todd, there are 2 or 3 existing structures in the backyard. Those are sheds or garages currently?
They are sheds.
Is there a possibility that you could build a 2 or 3 car garage back there where those sheds are?
You might run into a situation where you're running into bulk issues. I would need to ask the architect if there's been any. There is a 1-car garage that's proposed in the one building. As far as an additional garage there, I'm not sure if it would become a permitted obstruction in the rear yard. One of the issues that we run into here is that we've got the rear yard of this building that actually butts the side yard of a building on 61st. And I don't know if there is an issue of having the garage adjacent to the side yard. I'll bring it up and I'll ask the architect if there was any consideration as to the garage. It may be that it's not allowed per zoning, or it may be just a design choice on their part where they don't wish to have a garage.
If it's permitted, it might be a good idea.
Sure, I will pass on that suggestion.
Thank you. Gary, have there been any, have we heard anything from neighbors?
No, I did do some distribution of the hearing notice on that block to those houses that are in close proximity. And
Oh.
also on 61st Street to a few of the houses.
Okay, so.
Haven't heard anything back.
So I'm going to close the hearing now, and just to let the public know who's being live streamed to right now, we're going to have a zoning and land use committee meeting, and this will be referred to that committee, and it's probably going to be the 6th or the 7th of February, usually a day or two before our meeting, and we're going to make a recommendation at the next meeting. Our land use meeting is open to the public, and people could come in, ask questions. I run that meeting. I'm pretty good about letting neighbors talk and people talk and give their opinions and things like that. And on that, we base our recommendation to the full board, which will be next February 8th. Any other questions? All right, let's move on. I want to thank you very much, Todd.
Got it. Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, we're gonna move on to the public forum. Speakers, Gary?
Okay. Yeah, we have a few. The first one is with regard to Forest Park. It's from Nicholas Kabat. And Nicholas says, hi, I won't be able to attend tomorrow. All entrances to Forest Park Drive in Forest Park have been closed to vehicle traffic and are designed to be inaccessible to bikes, strollers, and wheelchair users. New York City Parks should either install new accessible gates, clear a few feet on the side of the gate so that bikes, strollers, and wheelchairs can get by, or build sidewalk ramps so the sidewalks can be used. The current design requires bike riders to mount the curb to the sidewalk and then dismount the sidewalk to re-enter Forest Park Drive. It's really a small thing that would make the park much more enjoyable. And that's from Nicholas Kabat.
Okay.
Second one is from Jazam Hannes. This is with regard to City Bike. I am beyond thrilled to see that City Bike is coming one step further into Queens. I have had an annual membership since City Bike was first launched. It has been a tremendous asset, providing me with door-to-door one-way transportation in areas all around the city, except where I live. I was deeply concerned when the plan to expand to CB5 was stalled, because if it got blocked there, it would go further into Queens. It wouldn't go further into Queens. It would be an amazing asset to be able to City Bike one way to Forest Hills to catch the LIRR, or as a way to get to express train stops, or to get around the massive transit gap between Queens and Brooklyn. I used to frequently use the Q38 to get to the M train at Metropolitan Avenue, but not for going home, because waiting for the bus at night on Metropolitan Avenue is just miserable. If there were a City Bike station there, I could just hop on and be home in minutes without having to wait for the bus. I look forward to having access to this vital transportation tool so much closer to home. And that's from Jazam Hannes.
All right. And as everybody on the Zoom knows, we didn't try to block City Bike at all. We wanted input on where they went, so they weren't arbitrarily put without the people who know the neighborhood knowing it best to know where they could belong. So we didn't try to block it. We all know that, though. Go ahead. Who's next?
Thanks for the clarification. This is from Rachel Albetsky. Says, hello, CB5. I was very excited to hear about the forthcoming expansion of City Bike stations in CB5, including where I live on Fresh Pond Road. The expansion is going to be a great assistance for me and other residents in getting around Ridgewood, as well as to other places in the city. I would like to note that with the expansion of the City Bike stations, we also need to see an expansion of bicycle infrastructure. There are a lot of places in Ridgewood that would benefit from the installation of bike lanes, such as Cypress Avenue. Cypress Avenue is currently a very busy street that leads directly to Ridgewood Reservoir, but there is no bike lane. With the growth in bicycle ridership that will come through the expanded City Bike stations, we need to install a protected bike lane on Cypress Avenue to support safe cycling and to improve access to the Ridgewood Reservoir. And that's Rachel Albetsky.
Okay.
Next one is from Brandon Zwagerman. Dear Community Board 5, I am excited to learn that the expansion of the City Bike network into the remainder of Ridgewood and parts of adjacent neighborhoods is finally moving forward after a half year's delay, due in part to actions of certain elected officials and civic organizations. Many local residents depend on means other than personal cars to travel to work, patronize businesses, and access parks. The initial 2019 city bike expansion into part of Ridgewood has been a great benefit in providing an additional transportation option to residents, including those that might also have personal bikes, use transit, or even own motor vehicles. The bike share system allows for the flexibility of one-way trips and is also a great alternative for those who may not have easy access to secure bike storage in their buildings. In Ridgewood's high-density multifamily buildings, this is often a very real consideration. The pedal assist models in particular are great for longer distance trips or routes that include steep climbs over the bridges or up hills. I live just outside of the boundary of the existing service area, and many friends and neighbors live too far to walk from the nearest dock to conveniently use the system. This expansion phase means all of Ridgewood and parts of adjacent neighborhoods will be given equal access to this transportation option, which was previously offered in only half of the neighborhood and nearby neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Western Queens. As we all know, street space is valuable public resource. In the same space currently being allocated to subsidize the free storage of an individual's private property, paren motor vehicle, a city bike dock can serve dozens or even hundreds of users over the course of the day. While some have complained about the repurposing of a handful of free motor vehicle parking spaces, the insignificant percentage of street space that will be repurposed for bike share use in a neighborhood that has overwhelmingly dedicated its public space to motor vehicles is very little to ask. Stations should be placed in the roadbed wherever possible, rather than occupy the very limited percentage of public right-of-way dedicated to pedestrians. While it is disappointing that some stations will be placed on sidewalks, ultimately, it is just encouraging that implementation is finally happening. Ridgewood is well served by transit and is of a density suited for walking and cycling. Connecting the remainder of the neighborhood to citywide bike share network is one more way to leverage those characteristics. I ask that the board will give priority to users of transit, pedestrians, and cyclists to encourage increased use of these modes when considering future DOT programs and infrastructure changes, and look forward to DOT implementing the expansion phase in CB5 this month without further delay. And that is from Brandon Zwagerman.
Okay.
Number 5, Mallory Virginia Woods. Hello, I'm submitting this statement to be shared at tonight's board meeting. Thank you. I would like to share my enthusiasm for the expansion of the city bike program in Ridgewood, Glendale, and Maspeth. This is a huge win for folks in these neighborhoods, the majority of which do not use cars as their primary transportation. With increased access to bikes, we will certainly see an influx of cyclists on the road, so I'm asking the Transportation Committee to take the necessary steps to keep us safe. Our community desperately needs improved infrastructure like dedicated bike lanes, not just shared roads, and protected bike lanes in areas like Cypress Avenue and Myrtle Avenue, which we know are deadly to pedestrians and cyclists. I celebrate the expansion of access to bikes, but now we must ensure we are keeping ourselves and our neighbors safe in the street. Thank you, from Mallory Virginia Woods. Next one is from Blaze Miller.
How many of these do we have on the city bike issue?
We have,
Typically, we take 3 on every issue. We've taken 4 so far. I don't mind 1 or 2 more, but
yeah, the next one is not.
good.
And then the following one is not.
Okay.
And this is from Blaze Miller. Hello, I'm requesting street sweeping on Catalpa Avenue between 65th Street and 64th Street. I've contacted Robert Holden's office and was told to make a request with says District 5. Our block has not been street swept in over a year, and cars never move frequently enough for neighbors to clean in front of their homes. For a brief time, the 104th Police Precinct would put no parking signs up once a month, but then it stopped. Parking in general in the neighborhood has become an issue, with parking on corners, blocking crosswalks, as well as parking in no standing zones, in particular on 65th Street. Thank you for your time. And the 7th one is, hi, my name is Dean Emerson. I'm a teacher at PS 81 on Cypress Avenue and a resident of Ridgewood. When I first moved to Ridgewood, the real estate broker billed the apartment as part of Bushwick. I learned very quickly that Ridgewood is Ridgewood, plain and simple. In my 2 years here, I've fallen in love with Ridgewood's incredible history as an enclave for immigrants from Germany, Poland, Italy, Dominican Republic, and Ecuador, to name a few. I saw a living, breathing community, a community of families, children, parents, grandparents that gather at Rosemary's Playground for a picnic on Saturday or worship together at St. Matthias on Sundays. A community of small business owners proudly displaying their work in the bakery windows and putting on local Halloween dog parades with 10 times more dogs than it had the year before. And not least, a community of fighters who banded together to create constructive outlets for youth, such as Greater Ridgewood Youth Council, or more recently, mutual aid groups to assist our families affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a teacher and community member, I am proudly laying roots with my fiance. We are growing closer with Ridgewood's families, many whose parents attended PS 81 when they were kids. But I am seeing a growing number of families being uprooted by the rising cost of housing. 3 days ago, I learned that my downstairs neighbors, a married working couple with a newborn, are being evicted by our landlord. They are great neighbors, great tenants, and great people. The wife is a criminal defense lawyer, and her husband is finishing an engineering degree and taking care of their baby. 2 days ago, my fiance overheard a conversation between a broker and our landlord in the hallway of our apartment. It is easy to connect the dots as to why they were being evicted. On the Ridgewood Facebook and Reddit forums, I have seen a growing panic from community members in response to the growing unaffordability of housing in the area. At the same time, I have seen posts both by and about investors looking to purchase rent-stabilized buildings with intent to convert them to market-rate apartments. Last month, one of my first grade students came in late. He was distraught. I asked him what happened. His mother was evicted from their apartment despite working 3 jobs because she could not afford the new rent imposed. I know his mother personally. She's a good, hardworking woman that grew up in Ridgewood and helps out at church on Sundays. They are currently in a shelter near JFK. I have not seen him since we returned from break. This is very long.
All right.
It is clear that companies like Evergreen Realty and AB Capstone are actively seeking to turn Ridgewood into an expensive transient area, much like we've seen with Williamsburg and Bed-Stuy. They do not care about you. They do not care about your children. They do not care about your family. They do not care about your small business. They have profit and profit only in mind. I grew up in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., a city that has seen a major overhaul in the past 20 years. I have witnessed communities that were once strong, family-oriented, working-class people dissolved by wealthier, temporary occupants. These new residents could not care if they were here or there, and often leave the area after a year or two. I have witnessed the local mom and pop stores, the Valentinos, the Rudy's, the Vahita Sunrises turn into corporate strip malls. At first, it's exciting. We get a Target, we get a Trader Joe's, we get a Chipotle. But after a decade or two in an economic downturn, they become vacant, void of any culture or memory of what existed prior. I have witnessed families and homeowners priced out by corporate realty and the government tilted to favor developers. The property tax on the home they bought 30 years ago is suddenly unaffordable because market rate development inflated property values for profit. They are forced to leave the home that has been a lifeline, a lifetime of Christmases, birthdays, and marriages simply because a faceless developer wants to curate their neighborhood.
All right, Gary, I'm going to ask you to stop. That's 3
Okay.
minutes. And just in the future, try to keep it to 3 minutes or summarize. I'm sorry.
Well, let me just read his last sentence.
Go ahead.
I am calling on our board to show our community, our families, our schools, our places of worship, and most importantly, corporate realty that Ridgewood is not for sale. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into, it's 8:21. We're going to move into the chairperson's report. I'm going to.
I have a hand up.
Go ahead. And
I just think that we can't have 1% of the bicycle, people, 1% of the people in the community board continue to lobby for the bicycle situation, or talk on end in every meeting. It benefits such a small minority of the board, yet we've taken away, parking and lanes for driving. So I think, it just has to be said every time we have 15, 20 minutes of our time, which is, significant, and our streets for a very, very, very small portion of Community Board 5. So I'm
Fred,
gonna have to say this each time, but that's just,
Fred, a public forum, the public is allowed to speak. We typically 3 people on each issue. I feel they were short. They weren't too long, and we have to consider it. And you're very well said, Fred. But we do have to. We have a public forum, and public can come to a transportation committee meeting, and the public can speak at those meetings. But we have to let them speak here, let the public speak here, because that's what we do. But thank you. Thanks for that statement. Who hasn't spoken yet? Diego.
Oh, yeah, I was just under the impression that the public forum was not to represent the community board, but actually to represent the voice of the community itself. So if the community is speaking up for an issue that they care about, I think we should always give them the space to speak out about it, regardless of what we think the percentage of people in the community board that would benefit from that issue is.
That's well said. Thank you, Diego. Richard.
Yes, thank you. Just want to say, appreciate the comments of the community and people having input. And yes, unfortunately, with all these new bicycles with the batteries setting numerous homes and apartments on fire, it is a good thing to keep them outside. But the mayor has stated publicly that he looks to a model of eliminating cars in New York City. And as I've said time and time again, we will take our cars and we will drive to states like Texas and Florida, where we can have our cars and not be burdened with these difficulties as we're getting older. It's really getting tough and tough. My 94-year-old mother recently passed, and the lack of parking, and you can't put a 94-year-old lady on the back of a bicycle. Thank you very much. Everyone stay safe. A happy new year to all. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Happy New Year, Richard. Ken?
Well said, Richard. I agree. All right, we should have places for bikes, and yes, but they need to be safe play areas. This share the road on Myrtle, Fresh Pond, Cypress Avenue, Cypress Hills is without a doubt not a safe thing for drivers or bicyclists. That's all.
Thank you, Ken. So, community boards are meant for spirited debate, and I can't wait to start meeting personally. So next month, we're going to do our best to meet personally on this, because it's a lot easier than to do it on Zoom. So that's part of my report. Next, the borough president is looking to do some emergency flood planning. They're starting with schools because the rains and things like that have made us very susceptible to flooding. Of course, our board has known that for a decade, and we've really worked on new sewers and things like that, not just catch basins. And we have a really good understanding, thanks to Brian Dooley, who's chairing that committee. We have a really good understanding of how our sewers work, and we've have, I don't know, Gary, what's the number? $20 million worth of sewer projects done, and more still being done in Glendale and Middle Village now. So kudos to our board in the last decade for getting this done. The other thing that I wanted to remind you of, the borough president wants us to know that you have to get your applications in if your time is up. And it's every 2 years is when our term is up. You have to get your membership in, and just go to the borough president's website to get it in if you're up. Now, Gary, we asked last month, or John, just to send to those people, and send to us a list of people on the board now who are up this year. Did you guys do that?
Oh, yeah.
You did? Okay, good. So the people who are up, they know about it. So please, I mean, if you wish to serve, we're volunteers. We're doing a really nice job. I'm really trying to make sure that everybody gets their say here, and that we're a lot, we really do listen to the community and to each board member. So looking forward to the coming year, and please, I want to encourage you guys to reapply for next year. Next is, I guess we'll go to liquor licenses, and then we'll go to notes from legislators. Want to get to that, Gary?
Walter, the first thing is review of the minutes, I think, from last month.
Okay, all right. So any questions? The minutes were sent out to everybody. Any questions on those minutes?
No, I'd make a motion to accept the minutes.
No,
Motion.
I have a question.
Go.
Okay.
In the part my report on introducing the amendments, I
Mhm.
think it should be made clear that it is a report of the executive committee. I stated that the bylaw committee had input as to wording, but it was really a report of the executive committee, and the bylaws require that it's the executive committee that introduces these
So noted.
amendments. So I had emailed Gary about that change yesterday.
Gary made, good,
Yeah, no, I think that's correct.
a good point. Now, I've been asked by a number of people for a copy of the actual bylaws of Community Board 5. So who has those?
I have them on my computer. I can send them to, and I think the board has them too.
Can we send them out to each member so that the board members know what the bylaws are? Can we get that done tomorrow, Gary?
Peggy, if you could, I don't have the Word document, so we could send them what we have that date back to,
You
you know-
sent me the original Word document of the bylaws. I can send it back to you, but I asked
okay.
John. I think that
Okay.
he probably knew how to send it.
We have a readable text, like a searchable text document of the former bylaws. They do need to be modified now once they've been accepted. And I know that the bylaws committee is working on edits on the rest of it. So
Well, we just would like the original ones, just so we know what we're working from. So if you can.
we can send out the originals.
Thank you. And so is there a second to the amendment, the accepting the minutes with those?
Well, it's a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Okay, as corrected. Second,
I'll second.
it. Okay.
Bob Semelli, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Okay. As for attendance, there are, John, if you could make a note of who's on, but there are two people who it just says iPhone on, and I think one of them might be Fiedler. Who's the other one? Do you know? Does anybody know?
Kathy Sumsky.
Kathy.
No, Kathy's been renamed. Almost everybody's been renamed. There is one outstanding iPhone. I would like them to unmute themselves and identify. I've been trying to chat with them, but they have not responded to the chat.
Maybe
Tony, do you have Tony?
Adhikari?
Do you have Tony?
Yep, Tony, thank you. You've identified yourself.
Okay.
Mariana Zero?
Okay,
We got you, Mariana.
Gotcha.
Okay.
iPhone, somebody's iPhone who doesn't say, it doesn't identify who they are.
That's Tony Benanti. We'll get it renamed in a minute.
All right, so let's move on and go to the, do we have a liquor license report? The committee get together? Or no? No. Okay. Gary, you want to read the liquor licenses that are
I
up?
think John's gonna do that.
Go for it, John.
I can do that. New liquor licenses. Pomodoro Inc. doing business as Joe and John's Pizzeria at 5908 and 5910 Myrtle Avenue, Ridgewood, New York, 11385. They currently have a wine, beer, and cider license at one of the addresses. They are expanding their restaurant and going for a full liquor license.
Okay.
Liquor license renewals, JNS Venture LTD doing business as Vixen at 6007 Metropolitan Avenue, Ridgewood, New York, 11385. 2, Frank Kolowski, post number 4, 6157 Maspeth Avenue, Maspeth, New York, 11378.
John, you want to correct that? It's Kowalinsky, not Kowalski.
Okay, I thought I wrote down what was on their letterhead, so I'll check that. Thank you. Gottshire Central Holding Company, Inc., 65-5 and 65-7 Fairview Avenue, Ridgewood, New York, 11385. New wine, beer, and cider licenses. We've seen this one before, but they never initiated it with the SLA, so they ran out of time and had to come back. Regal Cinemas, Inc., doing business as Regal Atlas Park Stadium 8 at 80-28 Cooper Avenue, Glendale, New York, 11385. Second one is Masala Kitchen and Lounge LLC at 7104 Grand Avenue, Maspeth, New York, 11378. New wine, beer, and cider renewals are Carlo Pizza of Metropolitan Avenue, Inc., at 7402 Metropolitan Avenue, Middle Village, New York, 11379. Number 2 is Craft Culture New York, Inc., doing business as Craft Culture at 5904 Myrtle Avenue in Ridgewood. Number 3 is Raheny 5 LLC, doing business as Walsh's Pub at 6867 Fresh Pond Road in Ridgewood. And we have one new beer and cider license. Application El Mariachi Restaurante, Inc. at 602 Seneca Avenue, Ridgewood, New York, 11385.
Ed, do you have a question on one of them?
Sorry, I have to unmute. I have a question about, I was on the 39 bus. You know where all those little bars and restaurants are on Forest Avenue going towards Catalpa? I saw in the window, but I couldn't confirm because I haven't walked over there. The place called the Acre said that they were, and there's a sign in their window, forced to close their doors as of Thanksgiving. If that's true, what happens if they do have a beer, wine, or liquor license? What happens to that license? Does that become null and void, or could that license be transferred to another business? But I'm not, I have to walk there to see, to make sure that they are out of business, according to what I saw from the bus on the sign.
So Ed, the SLA makes licenses inactive if the business is not active and it's still running. The license can then be handed off to another business to run temporarily. And then they would be, while they're applying for their own license under a new corporation.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Ken?
Yeah, the license for Regal Cinema, are we talking about the movie theater that's going to be selling beer now, or what? Do we know?
Yeah, that's actually a model. There's other places within the city that are theaters that have food and drink.
Fun.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else on liquor licenses? All right, let's go under demolitions. Anything?
There is one. We've also seen this one before, but it was while the Mount Nebo Cemetery was being transferred to other management. And it's come back to us again, 8207 Cypress Hill Street, which is Mount Nebo Cemetery. They are going to be demolishing Building A, a garage, and Building B.
Okay. Before we get to the legislators, the executive committee is planning to get together before our next regularly scheduled meeting to really make sure the liquor license committee is really, the people are chosen, people who asked to be part of it, and the homeless committee. If anybody's been to one of the meetings that they hold at the shelter, we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're going to get to legislators. Any notes from legislators, Gary?
Oh, yeah.
Go.
Okay. The first statement is from Jonathan Arias. He's a district special assistant to Congresswoman Grace Meng. So that he hoped you all had an amazing holiday season and a happy new year. In terms of major updates, there was a monumental government funding bill that the Congresswoman helped pass for 2023. The bill itself avoids a potentially devastating government shutdown and ensures crucial federal agencies can continue to operate. Within the funding package, Congresswoman Meng secured over $21 million for 15 community projects in Queens. A few of those include $7 million to finally make the LIRR Forest Hill Station ADA handicap accessible. $1 million for the Queens Chamber of Commerce Small Business Program for immigrant and small businesses. $750,000 for helping those experiencing homelessness attain affordable housing. $1 million for New York City Health and Hospitals, Elmhurst to renovate the infectious diseases clinic, and more. I know it has been a major priority of this community board to fix the flooding problems that continue to exist within the neighborhood. It has been a major focus for the Congresswoman as she was able to secure $120 million for upgrading environmental infrastructure in Queens as part of the House-passed National Defense Authorization Act, HR 7776. This will directly improve water and wastewater infrastructure as well as stormwater management. I am grateful for the opportunity to listen and hear from our community directly. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their night. If there are any questions, please reach out to Jonathan.Arias, ARIAS, at mail.house.gov. And Jonathan works for Congresswoman Grace Meng. The next statement is from the Queens DA's office, and we're getting this from Kate Bohm, who's the community coordinator for the Community Partnerships Division for the Queens District Attorney, Melinda Katz. Greetings, Community Board 5. District Attorney Katz extends best wishes for the new year and would like to thank the board for all their hard work. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about 3 upcoming events sponsored by the Queens DA's office. Tomorrow, January 12th, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., in conjunction with your college, we will be having an MLK Day commemoration at your college, Martin Luther King Day. You must register in advance, and this can be done on our website, queensda.org. Next week, on Wednesday, January 18th, we will be having a Lunar New Year celebration at Queensborough Community College. This event is co-sponsored by Council Member Linda Lee and Council Member Sandra Ung. The refreshment hour begins at 5 p.m. and the performances are from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Again, advanced registration is required. Please go to our website, queensda.org. And on Wednesday, January 25th, in observance of National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, District Attorney Katz will be hosting No Price on a Child's Life, Combating Youth Exploitation and Trafficking webinar. This is a very important topic, and we hope you can join us. For more information or to register for any of these programs, please go on our website, queensda.org. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you all soon. From Kate Bohm of District Attorney Melinda Katz's office. Next statement is from Councilmember Robert Holden. Dear Chairman Arcuri, District Manager Giordano, and Community Board members, thank you for your time and dedication to serving all the residents of Queens. Community Board 5. My office and I continue to focus on improving the quality of life in our council district. This past month, we have worked extensively with the Department of Transportation on several issues. As the Community Board is aware, my office, along with the Juniper Park Civic and Community Board 5 Transportation Committee, were disappointed by the plan to install bike stations at the expense of parking. After several meetings, DOT has agreed to keep about 40% of the parking spaces they originally targeted for elimination. We also expressed our frustration that the Community Board was not part of the discussion from the beginning. There are also several lighting issues I have addressed with DOT. I asked the Commissioner to study the efficacy of LED streetlights, which are not illuminating our streets adequately. Additionally, after the lights were out for over 4 weeks at Principe Park and on the LIE overpass, I spoke with DOT and had them fixed. I met with DOT, Con Edison, NYPD, and the Office of Emergency Management about the last power outage in our neighborhood. Our electrical infrastructure is struggling to meet demand, and our overhead lines are suffering too many failures during rainstorms. These agencies should no longer be surprised when a power outage occurs, and they need to have a plan in place. In the last outage, after several phone calls, the 104th Precinct was provided additional resources for 5 hours after the outage occurred. The time frame must be shortened going forward. The DOT will look at models in other European cities where traffic lights have solar panels activated in the event of a power outage. I am working with the NYPD and DOT to reduce auto accidents. We have already had 2 terrible accidents in the new year. I have asked for aggressive enforcement to help reduce collisions and injuries in our neighborhoods. I also spoke about making the area around the Maspeth 911 Memorial and the 69th Street overpass safer. We have had several accidents in this area with vehicles ending up on the sidewalk. We are meeting with several city agencies to address parking illegally along Principe Park. The trucks often have no tractor and are parked there for days at a time. Thank you for your hard work and for all the hours you put in serving our community as volunteers. You're all appreciated. From Council Member Robert F. Holden. The next statement is from Council Member Jennifer Gutierrez. Dear Community Board 5, I am wishing everyone a happy new year. I hope this year is filled with love and health for everyone. My office is in active contact with the 104th Precinct about the recent uptick in robberies. The 104th has increased presence throughout the border of Ridgewood and Bushwick. If anyone has been a victim, please make a police report. As the cold weather increases, if you have no heat or hot water, please contact our office and we will follow up. District 34's trash force has been a success. My office has worked with DSNY to clean various locations in Ridgewood. If you have any location in the 34th district that is problematic with trash, please submit your 311 complaints at bit.ly/trashforce311. The discretionary funding application is now open. If you would like to apply, you will need to complete the steps established by the city. But if you would like to be considered from my end, please complete the following form. And she's got the form here, https://forms.gle/WJ5N47 NQRCT1S1M48. Friendly reminder, my office has been planning community town halls throughout the district. I'm excited to announce that Ridgewood's Town Hall will be on February 13th, 2023 at PS 81 Queens, 559 Cypress Avenue from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we will be focusing on the cultural and business community. So Friday the 13th. I will send the board the original flyer and hope to see many of you on the 13th. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to my office at 718-963-3141. You can also reach out to Juan Mayancella, Ridgewood Community Organizer. Best regards, Council Member Jennifer Gutierrez. We have a statement submitted by John D'Angelo, the office manager for State Senator Joseph Adabo. The senator would like to again wish a happy and healthy new year to everyone at Community Board 5. He would also like to take the opportunity to wish a fond farewell and happy retirement to his former Chief of Staff, Neil Gianelli, while also welcoming his new Chief of Staff, Raimondo Graziano. Due to the redistricting that took place, our district office is scheduled to move to 84-16 Jamaica Avenue in Woodhaven on January 11th. The telephone number for the district office will still be 718-738-1111. The satellite office in Middle Village will remain as is, and the number is 718-497-1630. This month, the Albany legislative session and budget process begins. The senator encourages his constituents to weigh in on high priority issues such as public safety, healthcare, education, the environment, jobs, transportation, senior and veterans programs, or any other issue of concern. Updates. An additional $63 million in federal funding has been provided for the Home Energy Assistance Program, also known as HEAP. As a result of higher federal funding, the HEAP regular benefit component amounts increased for the 2022-2023 program year. Effective January 1st, 2023, all individuals in receipt of Social Security retirement, survivors and disability insurance, and/or SSI receive a federal COLA of 8.7%. For the purposes of cash assistance and SNAP benefits, this is unearned income. And this increase may impact eligibility and/or benefit levels. OTDA will send notices to all affected households. In partnership with Councilman Holden, a blood drive will be held with the shops at Atlas Park on Sunday, January 29th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's from John D'Angelo, the office manager for Senator Joseph P. Adabo Jr. Then we have two more statements. One is from Kevin Wisniewski for Assemblyman Andy Hevesy. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Hope you were all safe, well, and had a chance to spend time with loved ones over the holiday. Assemblyman Hevesy was back up in Albany this week to kick off the 2023 legislative session. This will be his second term serving as the Children and Families Committee Chair. In his first term, his accomplishments included the passage of legislation to give children in foster care with developmental disabilities adequate support. The signing into law of this bill to prevent kids under 11 years old from being arrested, processed, except in instances where homicide has occurred, and instead redirects such children towards appropriate support services. The mandating that people who work with kids are required to be able to identify signs of childhood trauma. The advocating for the first installation of the Children and Families Reinvestment Act, which included making more than 400,000 children eligible to receive adequate child care. This year, Assemblyman Hevesy will be continuing his push for such initiatives, starting with his advocating for the second iteration of the CFRA, Children and Families Reinvestment Act, to build on last year's accomplishments. Last year, we also distributed more than 50,000 protective masks, 16,000 rapid test kits, and thousands of other supplies directly to our communities. We have resumed appointments to pick up free protective supplies at our district office. With the increase in viral infections, it's important that people have access to necessary supplies, which will include KN95 face masks, rapid test kits, and hand sanitizing wipes, amongst other things. To arrange an appointment, we may be contacted at 718-263-5595 or hevesya@nyassembly.gov. Additionally, we encourage anyone to contact us with other local concerns or with legislative inquiries. Finally, we are making plans to resume our community cleanup series, and we'll keep the board apprised as we lock in dates. We look forward to continue working with you all this year. Thank you for all that you do. Stay safe and remain well. Kevin G. Wisniewski, Senior Advisor for New York State Assemblyman Andrew Hevesy. And the last statement is from Jennifer Rajkumar, Assemblywoman 38th District. I need to take a swig. Dear Community Board 5, Happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. I enjoyed spending it with so many of you. I love joining the entire community for the tree lightings at the Glendale Triangle and Atlas Mall. The GCOP holiday party at the Avenue was also a highlight. As we start a new year, I want to thank you for re-electing me by a landslide 98.5% of the vote. It is a privilege and honor to serve you. I started 2023 by doing my favorite thing, serving my constituents. I hosted a free legal clinic at my office in which many came for free legal counsel from lawyers on a range of civil matters. It is one of my priorities to bring access to justice to my constituents. On January 1st, I was honored to attend the governor's inauguration. Just yesterday, I attended the governor's State of the State address held in the Albany Chamber, the People's House. I spoke to the governor and her senior staff personally about the needs of our district and am in constant contact, dialogue with them. Currently, I am working on the state budget. As always, you have a champion in me to ensure that the funding flows into our district for our schools, libraries, first responders, parks, healthcare, sanitation, and community organizations. During this year's budget hearings, I will be questioning the heads of state agencies to ensure the efficacy of their government programs. In a widely covered event, I joined the mayor at City Hall to announce new initiatives to combat our city's mental health crisis. I am now partnering with both the mayor and governor to combat the crisis of mental health and drug addiction. Our initiatives include coordinating the work of different agencies to ensure that the mentally ill do not get lost in the system, expanding access to mental health treatment and increasing the capacity of the city's own services. I am also working to solve a problem that has plagued our district for years, that is solid waste transported by rail, whose emissions harm our air quality and respiratory health. I have introduced legislation to require this waste in trains to be covered with hard tarping. I am also sponsoring bills to create a fund for veterans organizations, improve school safety, and help veterans access jobs and housing. This month, I will be hosting a free mammogram screening at my office on Monday, January 23rd, in partnership with Mount Sinai Health. A simple breast cancer screening can save your life. I encourage women to contact my office to schedule an appointment. I also continue to work for your safety. I have been in contact with the 104th Precinct regarding last week's tragic incident where a motor vehicle struck a 2-year-old girl at Central Avenue and 70th Street, leaving her in critical condition. I will do whatever I can to help the family and vigilantly work with DOT to ensure safe streets. Recently, I brought FDNY Chief of Department John J. Hodgins to tour the Engine 286 Ladder 135 headquarters on Myrtle Avenue. I met with all the personnel and discussed future plans to promote fire safety. My fire safety work will include reintroducing my bill to create a tax credit for the conversion of cocklofts, a fire hazard that is common in South Queens homes. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Very truly yours, Jennifer Rajkumar, Assemblywoman, 38th District.
Thank you, Gary. We're going to give you a break right now. Maricela for President's Office.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maricela Cano. I'm the Director of Community Boards. I hope everyone's having a great new year. Sorry, my camera isn't on. I am not feeling too well, but I will reiterate what Walter said regarding the community board applications. You should have already gotten an email from myself and from Gary. Deadline is February 16th. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Gary. Gary will reach out to myself, or you can reach out to me directly. Thursday, January 19th, we'll be hosting our Lunar Year celebration at Queensborough Hall from 6 to 8. So RSVP at queensbp.org/RSVP. The same thing, we'll have our Haitian Independence Day will be hosted Thursday, January 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. Same deal, please RSVP at queensbp.org/RSVP. And then lastly, the Queensborough's President's Office will be hosting, alongside the Mayor's Office of Public Engagement, on one-on-one support in enrolling in homeowners tax exemptions or freezing your rent on January 11th, which I think was today, the 18th and the 25th, from 10:30 to 3:30. So you're welcome to stop by Queensborough Hall. They're open from 10:30 to 3:30. Second floor, room 213. And if anybody has any questions, I'll drop my email on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary, we're going to go back to you. You have a district manager's report.
I think there are a couple of demolition notices, or one demolition notice, if I'm not mistaken.
I read that earlier, Gary.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, first, Happy New Year. I wish you all good health and plenty of joy throughout the year. Bad incident occurred today. Water main broke. I think it was the city main on 74th Street between Elliott and 60th Avenue. So I know that Dimitro lives very nearby, around the corner to be exact. And he said he had some brown water. And very often when you have a water main break, you will have difficulty with the roadway pavement anywhere near that water main break. So we need to pay attention to that, and hopefully that repair has been completed already. The nurses strike, and this could affect Wyckoff Heights Medical Center. So right now we're talking about Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx and one of the Mount Sinai divisions. Those nurses are, as you know, are currently on strike. And I think that Wyckoff Heights Medical Center needs to settle with their nurses, I believe by the 17th, the day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. My concern about the nurse situation, or the shortage of nurses, because I think that's a big issue here, that a lot of nurses seem to have left the profession during the pandemic. And easier said than done to be able to have enough nurses to meet the demand. I know Fred Haller is on the board of Wyckoff Heights Medical Center. But I believe there's a shortage of nurses nationwide. And I believe there's also a shortage of people to psychiatrists, psychologists to help people with mental health problems nationally. When I've asked the health department, what is the supply of mental health professionals compared to the need or the demand, they tell me that the supply is significantly less than the demand. So my point is that there are times where I think that our nation has to promote the education of certain types of professions. And these two professions, among others, seem to need a real push to get more people to become educated with regard to those professions. I think otherwise talking about mental health help is not realistic, or certainly not realistic to help the number of people that need the mental health help. We are going to have to review street festival applications coming up. And at the executive committee meeting, Walter, we're probably going to have to take care of that because the mayor's office is going to want some answers from us, let's say by February. Normally what happens is that the applicants come in to meet with the executive committee, and then the executive committee makes recommendations to the full board, and then the full board votes with regard to the applications. I do not believe there are any new applications.
And again, the executive committee is a public meeting. Anybody can come to that meeting. We're probably going to be looking at February 6th or 7th for that meeting. We'll let everybody know.
And then, please pray for Vinny Arcuri. I went to see him on New Year's Day. He was 83 on December the 30th. And he's undergoing physical therapy. He seems to be doing better and better. Mentally, he seems pretty sharp, but physically he needs to do that therapy. So God bless Vinny. He has been a really good chairman of this board for many, many, many years, and I hope that you all are rooting for him.
Hear, hear. Very good. Thank you, Gary. Richard, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Gary, regarding the healthcare issues, talking about educated people, I mean, our nurses and our doctors are well educated in our medical professions, and God bless them all for all the work they do. For some strange reason, many of them left because they are well aware of informed consent, and so many of them were forced to leave the healthcare provision because of the vaccine mandates that we were told are safe and effective. every day I listen to the radio and I hear all of these wonderful commercials about all of these new drugs that are on the market and what they can all do. And at the end, they talk about all of the side effects. Yeah, possible death, possible Bell's palsy, possible this, possible that. And when all you ever heard about the vaccine, the so-called vaccine for the Wu flu, it was only safe and effective, and it would prevent transmission and it would prevent you from catching it. Yet that seems not exactly to be true. The in Indiana, the actuaries for for life insurance, there was a 40% die-off between 18 years old and 64%. Please Google it. Please look it up. And these were unexplained deaths. We have healthy adults and active athletes that are dying at a much significant rate. We have youth in our sports programs just dying or getting myocarditis. I don't know why, but healthcare professionals that were well educated all left the profession as to avoid the DNA altering gene therapy mandated medical requirements. So thank you very much. Stay safe, everyone, and God bless all.
Thank you. Fred?
Yes, we have our full board meeting tomorrow. Yes, they've been negotiating. I understand they basically hopefully settled it today and we're all complete. But as far as the shortage goes also, we had a program in the past in our local high schools at Christ the King and at Grover Cleveland, and that's why I'm just bringing it up now. If any board members know of schools that we could promote a scholarship, so if the person qualifies, we would sponsor them to go to nursing school, and they would have to promise to do a certain number of years at Wyckoff. And it's a program that we've had, and if you have someone who's interested, who's at high school, or I guess already a college student, certainly contact me. I'm going to be bringing it up at the board meeting tomorrow. We've had this program before. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Derek?
Not going to comment on the unhinged anti-vax rant we just heard, but I would just like to condemn the racist language that was used. And I don't think the community board is any place for that. So I just want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek. Okay, we're going to go on to committee reports. Transportation.
Hi, it's Eric. We took the month of December off, so there was not a committee report for this month. We'll be meeting again end of January.
All right. Sanitation. Anything? Nothing?
Nothing, Walter.
Parks. Fiedler? Nothing. Public safety.
Nope.
Mary Ann, nothing. Environmental. No.
Nothing.
Education.
No.
Walter, there weren't any committee meetings in December.
Homeless. Kathy, did you attend, did they have meetings?
They, no, they did not.
Okay.
They
Health?
did not. I don't think the homeless committee, I think that's Rich Huber's.
Yeah, we're going to be meeting and talking about that at executive committee meeting and
Okay.
really to get it going.
But there was no CAB meeting at West Ham this month.
Great. Health?
And I don't think there's going to be one for January.
Okay. Paul, you okay over there? All right, good. Health? Sarmelli?
No, the logistics was, we couldn't get that one going that we had planned to.
Okay. Is there any old or new business? No? Richard? Not going back and forth.
Just like to say regarding the homeless committee, I am looking for members to participate and looking to put it together and need support from our community board members as well as members of our community to get this committee going. It was formed and I'm looking for help and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peggy? Mute, you're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Come off mute. All right, Richard.
Sorry about that. We
All right,
got a
no, no,
reply
thank you.
from Borough Hall on the bylaws. I've gotten a couple of responses from the rest of my committee. I'd like the rest of you to answer so that most of it is unobjectionable, but we're going to have to work on the technical aspects, and that's not my bag.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that's why I mentioned sending the current bylaws before they were amended. We don't want to call them old bylaws, but they're current bylaws that we do amendments to. I want to
Sorry,
make sure
Boyd, but I sent them when I first set up the committee.
okay, to every board member should really
Yes.
have them.
Oh, well, not to
Let's
every board member, to all bylaw committee
Right.
members.
Let's send it to, we're going to send it to every board member tomorrow, right, John? Thanks. Yes, Michael Porcelli. Mute. You're on mute. No, you're still on mute. You're still on mute. You hit it twice. Go.
All right, there it is. All right.
Okay.
I just want to follow up on what Gary said about education and what I talked about last month. Everybody needs to contact every elected official, every school board, and demand that the schools bring back trade education, expand trade education and CTE education. Otherwise, we're going to run out of people in a lot of professions before too long.
Thank you very much. All right, the time is now 9:11 p.m. We're going to end the meeting. I'm going to ask for a
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Kathy. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next month, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Stay
night.
healthy.
Stay safe.